The sky was heavy with smoke. A crowd had gathered in the center of Old Town, torches burning bright in trembling hands. Angry voices echoed off the cracked walls and broken streets. A wooden platform stood in the middle, and on it, chained, bruised and trembling, was the alien girl they called a sinner. Her name was Thoraya. She had silver hair like flowing mercury and eyes that shimmered with quiet light, like stars trapped behind glass. She wasn't from Earth, but she'd lived among them for years, taught their children, healed their sick. She smiled at strangers, fed stray dogs, and hummed soft songs to lonely souls in the rain. But kindness was often feared, and beauty misunderstood. They said she was a witch, that her voice could twist minds, that her hands could curse crops and her kiss could bring death. All lies. But in a world still recovering from war, from famine, from the sting of betrayal by off-world empires, fear was more powerful than truth. And so, they tied her to the stake. In the crowd, one man stood frozen, heart pounding, fists clenched, firelight dancing in his eyes. His name was Ruin, not a hero, not a soldier. Just a mechanic who once fixed broken things and now found himself broken too. He had met Thoraya on a rainy day, under a collapsed bridge, when she helped pull a child from floodwaters. Her skin had glowed faintly in the stormlight, and her voice calmed the panic in Ruin's chest like soft thunder calming the wind. Since that day she had haunted him, not like a ghost, but like a memory that refused to fade, a gentle ache. They had shared tea on quiet nights, talked about stars, about stories. She had once touched his arm gently and said, "I do not belong to your world, but I would stay for someone like you." Now, they were going to burn her alive. The guards lit the base of the wooden structure. Flames crawled upward, slow, at first, then greedy. Smoke rose, black and thick. The crowd murmured, some watching with wide eyes, others cheering. Some turned away. Ruin didn't move. He heard her cry out, just once, not in fear, but sorrow. She wasn't afraid of dying. She was afraid of dying alone, and that broke something inside him. Without thinking, Ruin pushed forward. The crowd resisted, shouted at him. A man grabbed his shirt, but Ruin twisted free. Another tried to block him with a staff, but Ruin ducked and kept running. His heart roared in his ears louder than the fire. "Let her burn!" someone screamed, but Ruin didn't stop. He tore through the wall of fire and smoke, coughing, choking, but still moving. His sleeves caught flame, and pain bit into his side, but he reached the stake. She looked up at him, silver eyes wide, lips trembling. "You came," she whispered. He didn't speak. He simply took out his pocket blade, shaking hands, bleeding, fingers, and cut the ropes binding her. She collapsed into him. The fire roared louder now, dancing around them like angry spirits. But Ruin lifted her, shielding her with his own body, and ran, through fire, through hatred, through fear. He stumbled from the blaze with Thoraya in his arms, both of them charred and coughing. The crowd gasped, some screamed, but no one stepped forward. Ruin turned and looked at them all, face blackened with soot, eyes burning with something brighter than the fire. "She is not your monster," he growled. "She is the only one here with a heart still beating." And then he walked away. The flames behind him still burned, but the real fire, the one in his chest, had just begun. The road out of Old Town was long and broken, littered with dust and ash. Ruin's legs trembled beneath him, but he didn't stop. Thoraya lay against his chest, her breathing shallow, her skin too hot. The burns on her arms were bad, but not fatal, not yet. He reached the edge of the forest just as the sun dipped behind the hills. The sky turned deep orange, casting long shadows between the trees. Birds were quiet. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Ruin stumbled toward an old stone hut forgotten and covered in ivy. He had worked on it once, trying to fix its collapsed roof. It wasn't much, but it would have to do. Inside, he laid Thiraya down on a patch of moss and soft dirt. Her skin was blistered in places, and her eyes barely opened. "You should have." "Let me burn," she whispered, voice rough as sand. "They will come for you now." "I don't care," he said, wiping the soot from her face with his sleeve. "You didn't deserve any of that." Her eyes fluttered, focusing on him slowly. She looked tired, older somehow. "I'm not like you, Ruin. I'm not even close." He leaned closer. "Then tell me what you are." Thiraya hesitated. The truth was a heavy thing, and she had carried it alone for far too long. "I was born on a ship that never touched a planet. My people float between stars, always moving. We're not welcome anywhere. They say we bring misfortune, that we steal and charm and poison with our beauty." Ruin snorted. "Sounds like Earth, just with better excuses." "I healed a farmer's daughter last year," she continued softly. "She had rot lung. I gave her part of my essence, part of my light. It worked, but it marked her. Her skin shimmered like mine. They blamed me, said I infected her, that I cursed her soul. And so they tied you to a stake," Ruin muttered, jaw clenched, "for saving someone." She looked at him with such sorrow that his heart ached. Sometimes, kindness is a foreign language. He reached out, took her hand gently. "Then we'll speak it together." Silence filled the hut. Outside, the night crept in, cold and full of hidden sounds. But inside, a small warmth began to return. Ruin built a fire, carefully this time. Not for destruction, for comfort, for her. He brought water from a nearby stream and poured it over, a cloth dabbing her wounds. She winced, but didn't pull away. His touch was rough but full of care. Every movement said more than words could. "You're not afraid of me," she whispered. "I've seen fear." "It doesn't look like you." She studied his face, eyes tracing every scar and line like they were a story. "Why did you save me, Ruin?" He didn't answer right away. He sat beside her, resting his back against the stone wall, watching the firelight flicker across her skin. "I think," he said slowly, "because I couldn't watch the world burn the one thing that made me believe it was still worth saving." She didn't speak, but her hand tightened slightly around his fingers. For a while, they sat in silence. Outside, the forest whispered secrets through the leaves. Inside, something unspoken bloomed between them, gentle, fragile, but real. Later, as she drifted into a soft sleep, Ruin leaned down and kissed her forehead. Her skin was cool now, her breathing steady. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring. Maybe the villagers would come, maybe worse. But in that moment, none of it mattered. He had walked through fire for her, and if needed, he would do it again. The morning light slipped through the cracks in the stone walls, casting soft golden stripes across the floor. Birds chirped cautiously, as if testing the air. Ruin opened his eyes to find Thiraya already awake, sitting up against the wall, watching. The forest outside with quiet eyes, her silver hair, though singed, still shimmered in places. The glow in her skin had returned faintly, like moonlight under water. She turned when she felt him stir, and gave him the smallest smile. It wasn't forced. It was real. "You snore," she said softly. He grinned. "Loudly?" "Like thunder." "In a cave." "Well, I'm glad I didn't scare you off." "You already did that," she replied, reaching toward a cup of water he had left near her. Her hand shook, but she managed to sip. "Walking through fire isn't exactly subtle," he watched her closely. "How are you feeling?" "Sore," she admitted, "but safer than I've felt in a long time." He moved beside her, his shoulder brushing hers. Her warmth was back, no longer feverish, just comforting. I don't regret it, you know. Saving me? No. Falling for you. She turned to him slowly. Her eyes glistened, not with tears, but with emotion too deep for words. You don't even know what I truly am, she whispered. If I showed you, all of me, you might change your mind. Then, show me, he said. Let me decide. Thuraya hesitated. Then, very slowly, she raised her palm. A soft blue light emerged from her skin, like liquid starlight. It pulsed, warm and slow, and then spread, veins of color tracing up her arms, glowing faintly beneath. The skin. Her eyes changed too, becoming deeper, like twin galaxies. This is what I am, she said. A Irinari. Our energy is tied to life, to healing, to emotion. If I bond too deeply with a human, I share part of myself. I can't take it back. Ruan stared, not with fear but awe. So if you love someone, it's forever. Yes, she whispered. That's why my kind are feared. People say we steal hearts. But the truth is, we offer ours first. He reached out, took her glowing hand in his. I don't want your power, he said. I want you. The woman who helped strangers, who sang to sick children, who made my lonely life feel like it mattered again. Her breath caught. The glow in her palm flared briefly where his hand touched hers. She trembled. Ruan, if we bond, you'll carry my light. People will see it in you. You'll be hunted too. Then we'll run together. She laughed quietly, tears finally falling. You're too human, and you're too much heart for this world. They sat like that, hands clasped, her glow warming both their skin. The bond hadn't formed yet. It required consent from both hearts, not just words. But something had begun to shift. Suddenly, a crack outside the hut snapped their attention. Ruan stood instantly, moving to the window. Between the trees he saw movement, dark uniforms, armed men, 6 of them, moving quietly through the brush. They found us, he murmured. Thuraya stood, legs still weak but steady. They won't listen. I can't talk them down. Then, we don't talk. He turned to her. Do you trust me? With everything. He handed her a small bag. Inside, a vial of healing sap, a knife, and flint stones. Take the path north. It leads to the river. There's a ferry post there. Still active. You'll need to cross. She stared at him. You're not coming? I'll lead them the wrong way. Give you a chance to escape. She grabbed his arm. No. Ruan. If they catch you, they won't, he said with a half smile. I'm harder to burn the second time. She didn't laugh. Her hands trembled against his chest. You won't survive alone. I won't survive without you. They stood there, staring at each other, firelight flickering in their eyes again. But this time not from destruction, from something stronger. She leaned forward. He met her halfway. Their lips touched gently, then deeper, full of unsaid words, aching promises, shared breaths, and for a moment, the glow from her skin wrapped around him. Not a full bond, but close. When they parted, he rested his forehead against hers. Go, I'll find you. You better. And then, like mist, she slipped out the back, into the forest. Ruan turned to the door as the soldiers drew near. The fire in his chest reignited, not of fear, but of purpose. They called her a sinner, but he knew the truth. She was light itself, and he would protect her flame. Smoke curled between the trees as Ruan ran, snapping branches underfoot and kicking up leaves. He made sure the soldiers saw him, let his jacket snag and tear, his boots leave bold prints in the dirt. Their shouts rang out behind him, steel slicing against bark, armor clinking. He grinned grimly. Let them chase. The forest thickened as he veered south, away from the river path. The old trails still lived in his memory. He ducked under a fallen log, slid down a muddy slope, and crossed. A stream he knew would wash away his scent. Behind him, angry voices grew fainter. He bought her time. That was enough. Still, when his foot snagged a root and sent him crashing into the underbrush, pain flared in his shoulder. He lay still, breathing heavily. A twig snapped nearby, closer than he liked. He reached for the knife at his belt. But it wasn't a soldier who emerged from the brush. It was a boy, no older than 15, wearing the faded cloth of a villager, wide-eyed and pale. "You're him," the boy breathed. "The firewalker. The man who took the witch." Ruan didn't move. "Her name is Thariah. She's not a witch. She's not a monster." The boy hesitated. "My sister. She was sick. Real bad. No one could help her. But one night, Thariah touched her forehead. In the morning, she could breathe again. She said she dreamed of stars." Ruan sat up slowly. "And what did your family do?" They thanked her, quietly. The boy looked down. But they were afraid to say it out loud, afraid of the others. "People fear what they don't understand," Ruan murmured. "I don't," the boy said. "I saw her eyes. She wasn't cruel. She looked sad, like she was carrying the whole sky and didn't know where to put it down." Ruan smiled faintly at that. "You've got a poet's tongue," the boy flushed. "The soldiers are headed toward the river now." One of them spotted movement. Maybe it was her. Ruan's smile vanished. "Which path?" the boy pointed. "North Ridge. If she tries to cross, they'll see her." Ruan was on his feet in seconds, running before the boy could finish. His legs burned. His chest ached. But he didn't stop. He couldn't. The ridge loomed like a dark spine above the forest. Ruan pushed through thorn bushes, blood slicking his hands, and came to a ledge that overlooked the river. There, across the open trail, Thariah was running. She was fast, but the soldiers were faster. They burst from the trees behind her, 5 of them now, crossbows raised. "Stop!" one barked. "Drop your pack and kneel!" Thariah hesitated for only a heartbeat. Then she turned and lifted her hands. A wave of blue light burst from her skin, not as an attack, but as a shield. It formed a curved dome around her, pulsing like a heartbeat, shimmering like moonlight through rain. The soldiers recoiled. One fired, and the bolt bounced off the glowing wall. But the second shot struck the ground beside her. The third grazed her leg. She staggered. The shield flickered. Ruan didn't think. He ran straight down the slope, yelling, "Leave her!" The soldiers turned. One raised a weapon. Ruan didn't slow. He slammed into the nearest man, knocking him flat. The next swung at him with the butt of his crossbow. Ruan ducked, jabbed with his knife, and sent the man stumbling. But there were too many. Hands grabbed him. A boot slammed into his ribs. He hit the ground hard. Through blood-blurred vision, he saw Thariah crawl toward him, tears streaking her soot-smeared face. "Don't hurt him!" she screamed. "Please, he's not part of this!" "Quiet, witch!" One of the soldiers barked, but another hesitated. "She saved my daughter," he muttered. "You remember that, don't you? After the fever?" The council said. "Screw the council," the man shouted. "Look at her. She's not fighting us. She's trying to protect us." The captain growled. "She's an alien. They don't feel like we do. They lie. They trick." Ruan coughed blood, lifting his head. "She feels more than any of you ever did. Enough." The captain roared, lifting his sword. Thariah threw herself in front of Ruan. The blade came down and stopped midair. It hovered, inches from her neck, because every soldier's weapon had begun to glow faintly, blue, the same as her light and yo. Then, one by one, they dropped their weapons, not by force, but by understanding. She stood slowly, breathing hard, her body bruised and bloody, but still glowing. Her light no longer frightened them. It warmed them. Ruan looked up at her, vision flickering, heart hammering. "You came back," she whispered. "I always will." And for a moment, even the forest seemed to hold its breath, listening to the quiet miracle that had just unfolded. The world had tried to burn her, but he had walked through that fire, and now they were both still standing, together. The sun broke fully over the horizon as if the world itself had waited to exhale. Golden light poured through the trees, softening everything it touched, ashes, wounds, old fears. And standing in that light, Thiraya and Ruan looked at each other. Like nothing else existed, the soldiers had backed away, not out of fear, but out of reverence. None of them spoke. None dared interrupt what they had just witnessed. They had come to punish a monster, but found a woman who had burned for kindness, a man who would bleed just to hold her hand one more time. "Can you walk?" Thiraya whispered, crouching beside Ruan. He nodded, though his body ached with every heartbeat. "Barely, but if you lead, I'll follow." She smiled, helping him up. Her touch, even bruised and shaking, felt like the safest thing in the world. One of the younger soldiers, a girl no older than 20, stepped forward hesitantly. I'm sorry," she said. "We didn't know. They told us you were dangerous." Thiraya's expression was gentle. "Fear makes people blind, but not forever." Ruan leaned against her, smirking through the pain. "She's good at melting fear, and wood, and iron, and probably hearts." Thiraya laughed softly, brushing a lock of hair from his forehead. "Yours first." Behind them, the captain looked shaken, but even he lowered his blade fully now. He gave a short, stiff nod. "You should go," he said gruffly, "before others come who aren't so willing to listen." "We will," Thiraya replied. She and Ruan walked together down the trail toward the riverbank. Each step hurt, but neither complained. The ferry post was still there, a rusted platform with a flat raft tied to it with sun-bleached rope. As they reached the edge, Ruan turned back. The forest was quiet again. "I didn't think we'd make it," he said. "We didn't." Thiraya looked up at the trees, then at the open sky above. "We became something new, something they couldn't destroy." Ruan raised his eyebrows. "That poetic alien wisdom again?" "It's not wisdom," she whispered, stepping close to him. "It's love." He felt her hand reach for his, intertwining their fingers. The glow between them returned, but this time, it wasn't just from her. A faint shimmer pulsed in his veins too. He stared down at their joined hands. "The bond," he said, stunned. Thiraya smiled through tears. "It's begun. You let me in. And you stayed." They stood on the raft as it floated slowly across the river, water lapping gently beneath them. The world behind them faded into green and mist. Ahead, unknown lands, safety, maybe even peace. Ruan squeezed her hand. "So, what happens now?" "Do I grow glowing hair, start floating, sprout wings?" She chuckled, resting her head on his shoulder. "No, but you'll feel things more deeply. You'll see things others miss. And when I'm not near, you'll still hear me, inside your heart." That already sounds like being in love. It is. As the far bank drew near, they saw an old barn on the hill, abandoned but sturdy. They'd rest there, plan their next steps. Maybe start a life. Maybe even find others like her, others who had hidden for too long, thinking they'd always be alone. Thiraya turned to him, brushing a smudge of ash from his cheek. "You saved me from the fire, Ruan. But more than that, you believed I was worth saving." "You are," he said simply. She stepped closer, voice low and trembling. "Do you know what my people call the moment the bond completes?" He shook his head. She reached up, cupping his face. "We call it becoming flame together, because love like this, it doesn't burn, it glows." Then she kissed him, slow, deep. with 1,000 unspoken promises carried in every heartbeat. The moment she did, the light between them burst, silent, beautiful, like a star waking from slumber. It faded slowly, leaving only warmth in its place. The bond was whole. The world had tried to call her a sinner, had tried to burn her down. But fire could not kill what was made of light. And now, with ruin by her side, her glow would never fade again. Together, they walked into the morning, two hearts, one flame, forever.